bring value to this community. That's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to present you with some facts. I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to ask some questions. But before I do that, I want to kind of give you some understanding about where we are with the sheriff's office and this cultural change that's going on now 2 years. Well, also when I was in the UK, there was a story that I was told, and listen, you could probably get on ChatGPT and tell me that the story is not true, just like George Washington really didn't cut down a cherry tree, but it's a good story nonetheless. The story that they told me was there was a village in the UK called Westbridge, and sometime in the 1400s, they actually had 2 bridges in the town, one on either side of the town, and there were 2 bridge keepers that were responsible for maintaining the bridge, keeping everything together. The first one really thought of his responsibilities almost like a checklist. Like if the town charter required him to do something, he would do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't. So if there were loose nails on the bridge, or if the railing needed to be replaced, or whatever the case was, if the charter did not require him to fix it, it wouldn't get done. The other bridge keeper looked at it a little bit differently. He was going to fix anything that went wrong unless the law or the rules prohibited it. So if he walked on the bridge and there was a plank and it felt soft, he would replace it. If one of the footings looked suspect, he would fix it. One spring, as the river started to get bigger and filled up, the first bridge started to get a little wobbly, nails started to pop up, railings started to come off, and the bridge keeper looked at the regulations, looked at the town charter and thought, okay, now what do I do in this particular situation? But by the time he got to that part of the manual, the bridge had kind of collapsed and washed downstream and crashed into the other bridge. The other bridge, the one where the bridge keeper had maintained things and just fixed problems as they arose, withstood the flood, withstood the other bridge crashing into it, and was the only bridge left in the town. It was the one on the east. So ironically, they renamed the town West Bridge, even though there was only one town left, one bridge left, because they wanted people in the town to remember that there's 2 ways to look at things. The philosophy of, I'll treat rules and laws like a checklist, like I'm going to follow a recipe, and unless it says it, I'm not going to do it. Or I can look at laws and rules like guardrails. I'm going to do what I think is necessary to make things better unless the law prohibits it, unless it keeps me from doing something. And that's where we are today. So I'll use a perfect example. We've done a lot of things in the sheriff's office. I definitely subscribe to the guardrail philosophy. We are responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen in Washington Parish. A lot of it is determined by law that the sheriff has to do, but much of it is not. Most of it is not. 911 is a perfect example. There was nothing requiring us to move out to the center of the parish. In order to do that, and the building was vacant, it had been built after Hurricane Katrina, but nobody wanted to move out there. Nobody wanted to go through the thought process of figuring out how to get out there. Nobody wanted to be the grown-up and move out there first. We decided that it was going to be much better for the parish if we did that, so we went through the thought process of reorganizing our dispatch. Previously, the dispatch section had been isolated to a shift. In other words, every shift of deputies that was responsible for securing the parish had one dispatcher that sat in Franklinton and answered phones and sent deputies out. Because we were moving out to a central location, we had to do away with that model and have a group of people that became a repository of information. So where you can handle multiple calls, you could deal with different things, and it's staffed with 2 people all the time. How does that help you? Wednesday night, we had a significant weather event. We had 33 different weather events that were reported in about 4 hours. We were, the dispatchers, the 2 that were there, were responsible for coordinating the response between law enforcement, between fire, between Parish Public Works, between DOTD, between local utility companies. That could never have happened under the previous model. There was nothing requiring us to do that, but we thought it was going to be beneficial. The other example that immediately comes to mind is we've got deputies now that are operating in firehouses across the parish. That wasn't required to happen. It required us to think about how to do this, coordinate with the fire departments, get access to their spaces. But now we have deputies that are out, that are proactive, that are spending time in the community in which they're patrolling, and that's made a difference. And I'll give you some evidence to support that. We have to keep statistics on different things. We receive highway grant money, and part of the agreement in order for us to receive that money is we have to keep statistics on speeding, DWI arrests, and seatbelt tickets. So in looking at this, I guess I should back up. From 2020 to 2025, we've lost on average about 12 people killed every year in vehicle accidents. Some of those involve alcohol, some of those involve speeding, some of those involve not people wearing seatbelts. So that means 60 people since 2020 in Washington Parish have died in vehicle accidents. And this is in a day and age when vehicles are much safer. So we still have lost 60 people. So we keep statistics on that. So in 2023, we made 9 DWI arrests, less than 10 DWI arrests. We wrote 84 speeding tickets, and we wrote 0 seatbelt tickets in 2023. In 2024, we made 24 DWI arrests. We wrote 202 speeding tickets, and we wrote 35 or so seatbelt tickets, plus about 10 no child restraint, children that aren't in proper car seats and things like that. Last year in 2025, we made 69 DWI arrests. We wrote 485 some odd speeding tickets, and we wrote 84 seatbelt tickets along with almost 40 no child restraints. Now, statistics only tell part of the story. I agree. And statistics cannot be the goal. Like, I'm never going to incentivize the deputies to go out there and reach a certain number. I listen to the radio. I've got it on my phone. I listen to the radio all the time. My wife can tell you how aggravating it is. It goes off all night. And every morning until we upgraded our CAD system, and I can't figure out the new system yet, I would read the CAD notes each morning as I came into the office. And I'm telling you that because we average about a 1-to-1 ratio between tickets and warnings, meaning that we let people go with a warning just as much as we write a ticket for something. That should be encouraging to you all, because I take pride in the fact that the deputies are really understanding their role, like as bridge keepers of this parish. Their job is to change behavior and make things safer. Their job is not to harass people and write tickets. So I'm really proud of what they've done. I'm really proud of where we are as a office. The culture is changing. We've got a long way to go, but we're making a difference. And so, leaving it at that, I will open the floor to questions, if anybody's got one.
We need to give you a round of applause.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Senator asked, how's the jail going? So we've been doing a lot of budget stuff with the jail. The process of building a new jail is coming along. I could probably deflect it back to the senator because we just started a legislative session. I have put in a capital outlay request with the help of Del Sol Consulting, who's here today somewhere. Michael and his team have helped us navigate this process of capital outlay money. I think a lot of people just assume that I'm going to ask for a tax to be passed so that we can build a jail. And that may happen in the future because we are going to need to generate revenue in order to maintain the facility. But I'm of the opinion that we spend a lot of money on things in the state of Louisiana that we should be able to find money to spend on something that we absolutely positively need. Half of the prisoners in the state of Louisiana are housed at the local level. We're underfunded. We're stretched in terms of resources. And this is a real-life liability that we need to correct here in Washington Parish. I won't know if the legislature agrees with my assessment and is going to devote some money to it until they get out of session, maybe toward the end of May. But we've got the request in, and we're already starting the next phase so that if we get money, we can start the next phase of this. So we're talking about putting out the RFP for design. We've got the site purchased from Weyerhaeuser at the end of last year, 27 acres. So it's going to be in the center of the parish. If you go between here and Franklinton, just before you get to the Veterans Memorial Park, you'll see a sheriff's star on the left side of the road on the south side of the highway. That's where it's going to be. I'm really excited about it. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but it's going to happen one day, and we're on the way.
Sheriff, I don't know if you want to share the actual numbers that you're housing versus the numbers that are recommended for that kind of facility.
Yeah, so our current, we're currently, we've got 144 beds in the jail, 144 bed spaces. That is supposed to be the number of people that we can keep inside the jail. I think yesterday we had 225 in the jail. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's expensive. It's dangerous. It's stressful. The facility itself is in a poor location geographically in the center of downtown Franklinton. It's sliding into the river. It presents all kinds of security challenges, a lot of logistical challenges. The new design is going to be weather resistant. It's going to be centrally located in the parish. And I'm planning for about 300 beds. That'll change a little bit depending on the design. But we want to get it to where we can grow. And because we have enough acreage, we can actually expand if we need to. Does that answer your question, Judge?
More for the rest of the folks.
Close enough, yeah.
Understand the critical nature of it.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So, us working as a community and helping you, and we obviously we've done, and we thank you for everything you've done. But do you take donations? Like we can make a donation to the sheriff's office to help with the jail?
Yeah, so we set up a charitable account shortly after I took office because I wanted to break out the things that we're trying to do in the community with youth camp, with some charitable donations. I wanted to break that out from our general fund. So we do accept donations and we use it to make the quality of life better in the parish altogether. I'm not really accepting donations to build a new jail yet because I hadn't figured out how to go about doing that. So I might hold off on that. But if you want to make a donation to our charitable account, we are going to put it to good use for sure. Anybody else?
I have a question. I have moved people here from other parishes that have kids who are involved in junior deputy programs in other parishes that are very, very good. I've checked them out. I'm just wondering, would there be any possibility for us to do something like that? Because some of these kids now are sophomores, juniors, seniors going to work for the sheriff's department when they get finished with school because of what they've been able to do during school with it.
Yeah, the question was, are we planning on implementing some sort of junior deputy program, much like what exists in other places? The short answer is no, but the longer answer is yes. So the way I can explain that is I'm not willing to do it just yet. I like to delay on decisions until I feel more comfortable with stuff. I do agree with your assessment. There's things that we lack here in this parish to give kids options. We actually talked about that yesterday when I was in the courthouse, just in terms of juvenile justice, which I know is not particularly your question, but we have diversion programs in the adult correction system. And you would think that there would be even, almost as many on the juvenile side, if not more, because kids are not fully formed. And yet we seem to kind of put all the kids in the same box in terms of how the justice system works. But outside of that, we want to provide kids opportunity. One of the reasons why kids get into drugs, why they get into gangs, why they get into things is because they're looking to make connections with other people. They want to be part of something. And so if a junior deputy program is going to help them do that, I think that's a good thing. We tried something with the 8th grade boys that we're going to do in the spring. We had them in the fall to go out to Rayburn to see what the logical extension of their poor choices would be. And now we're going to put them in a position where we can take them out to the state park and show them what life has to actually offer. We are in the schools, in Washington Parish schools in the fall, we're going to implement a emergency communication certification course. So much like a welding certification or small engine mechanic certification, you can get a certification to be a 911 emergency communication operator. But that's going to give kids an exposure not only to the communications part, but all things first responder. So I'm very interested in trying to give kids more information and more options. The junior deputy program may be something that I'll look into. I just haven't put any plans in place yet. Is that a vague and non-specific enough answer?
It's vague and non-specific. I would absolutely volunteer to help you with that, as I've talked to other junior deputy programs when people brought this to my attention.
Okay, great.
Sheriff, we're spending a lot of time in the legislature right now on a variety of subjects. One of them is safety in our schools. Senator Mizell and I have been working diligently to make certain that we eliminate certain things, add certain things. And I know we're making a move now to place the center out and under law enforcement. Are your resource officers, you have the funding you need for resource officers in all of our schools in Washington Parish, or where are we in that regard?
Well, the question was, do we have the funding available for school resource officers? And this is going to maybe be more detailed than you want to get. The short answer is no, we don't. We don't really have school resource officers assigned from Washington Parish Sheriff's Office to the schools in the parish. We've taken a different approach to it. The old school resource officer that we had was assigned to 3 different schools. So he would spend some time in Mount Hermon, he would spend some time in Barnadoe, and he never really went to Pine. You can look, we've got 685 square miles. We've got 6 high schools in the parish. One school resource officer amongst all that is not going to cut it. So we try to take a different approach, but I'm really focused on school security. Captain Hunt, who is here somewhere, has been our security expert for the schools. We're developing critical incident plans for every school in the parish, public, private, Bogalusa City schools, Washington Parish schools, to where not only are we worried about the threat mitigation in terms of an incident in the school, but we're worried about the arrival and the coordination with adjacent law enforcement agencies and emergency response organizations that are coming to the place. So we talk about where we can evacuate casualties, where do we assess media, where do we do these other things, where do we stage, follow on law enforcement agencies. So all this to say that school security is a very big priority that we're going to address this year. The school resource officer is a different issue that I'm trying to work with Washington Parish schools to figure out a solution to. We're going to have to send somebody to the training to make them certified, and we've got plans in place, but it's not going to happen probably until the fall.
We're trying to do some major funding with all the assessments statewide to make certain that the state police, which is, I think they're really stepping up. I'm pleased with where they are, but where we can assess every school, both non-public and public, in the state, and then try to look for resources to go with what that assessment might bring.
That's great, because the reality is we know where the schools are. Like, we have a certain number of schools in the parish. There's nothing to prevent us from coming up with a plan specific to each of those schools and figuring out how to best increase security for the students in our parish. Yes, sir. You had a question?
Yes. Years ago, I took Judge Knight's, now retired Judge Knight's tour at the penitentiary in Angola, and one of the things that I noticed was the very robust prison ministry situation they had going on there. Warden Kane was the warden at that time, and I think that he really welcomed that sort of thing. I've been involved in prison ministries at times. I'm not so naive as to think that everybody who says, I found Jesus in prison, really means it. I understand that. But I also think that it has benefit, prison ministry has benefit for individuals, and also, hopefully, from a utilitarian standpoint of reducing recidivism. And I was wondering what the situation is in terms of prison ministry. I just kind of see an opportunity there. We have churches throughout the parish, and maybe you can fill us in on the status of that.
Yeah, so the question was about prison ministries. There's 2 things that we're doing. One of which in addition to implementing personal visitation, we have religious groups that will come into our jail. There's 2 mainly. I think one may have dropped off recently, but they're on a regular basis coming in and providing church services. We plan to do a couple of baptisms services in the jail, which has been good. But that's an outside agency. I really wanted to incorporate ministry into the operation of the jail, and I'm stealing the idea from Warden Kane in Angola. They would have a missionary program where they would put inmates through their Bible theology certification education course and then send them out to the different camps in Angola. And you can remember what the news said about Angola in the 90s. It was like, it was awful. It was terrible. And so they would go out, live in these camps, and they've seen great success with it. The sheriff of Grant Parish, Sheriff McCain, he was a former state trooper, and I think 10 years ago thought, well, if they can do that in Angola, why can't I do it in my parish? So he approached the state. He had to go 3 or 4 times to request it, but he wanted to take one of those inmate missionaries, bring them to Grant Parish, put them in his jail, and use them not only to minister to the inmates, but minister to the deputies, minister to these troubled kids, go to the alternative school, like form relationships that are really going to make a difference in the life of people in his parish. So in one of those discussions with him, I thought, well, if you can do it, he said, nobody else is doing it. He's tried to talk other sheriffs into doing it. So I said, well, we'll do it. So I went up to Grant Parish, saw how his thing went. We had a inmate pastor identified at Rayburn that we were going to pull over. But in that process, I have to have my jail meet the basic jail guidelines for the state of Louisiana, which we currently do not, for a lot of different reasons. We went through the inventory inspection, and we have a bunch of deficiencies that we're currently trying to correct. In truth, I don't know that I can actually meet the basic jail guidelines with our current facility as it's currently situated, but I'm trying to get an interim waiver to the point where I can at least have the opportunity to have somebody come in. And then when we get the new jail built, it'll be completely on board. But that is my goal, put into our jail program a missionary program that'll help prevent some of these things from happening.
While I was up there for a conference, for a ministry conference years ago, they had lunch for us, and I sat at a table with some of the inmates, and I met one of the inmate missionaries, and I didn't know there was such a thing. I didn't know there was a thing at that. And he talked about, he was very enthusiastic. He told us that he had been trained, and he'd gone through seminary while there, seminary and training, and that he was going to be sent out to another prison to be, as it were, like a missionary to the prisoners at another prison. He was enthusiastic. I mean, we send missionaries overseas, but we have such a crying spiritual need here in America.
No, and that's right. And
I thought that was just, this man was enthused instead of sitting around marking off the days like you see in movies,
right.
like Green Mile or something like that. So like, I get out in 32 years and 7 days or something like that. He was having a productive life, focused life, and I just thought it was great.
No, that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Like, that's not required. There's no other sheriff except Sheriff McCain that's doing it. But it clearly could provide a benefit to life here in Washington Parish and to the lives of the people that are in jail. So why wouldn't we do it? Anybody else? Listen, I appreciate the time. I do want to acknowledge Chrissy, whose restaurant or building this is. Where is she at? There she is. Thank you. And I want to acknowledge the committee members, some of whom I see here: Coylene, Susie, Donna. Who else? Johnny. So thank you all for putting this on. These things don't happen by accident, and it's a huge benefit to everybody here. So thank you all. That's all I got.